Welcome back to the Defying the Odds podcast. Today we are grateful to have Jeane Lassen on as a guest. We will explore Jeane's story of growing up in the Yukon to going to the Olympics for weightlifting. And at the end of the episode, we will have our inaugural Friendzone Segment with a friend of ours, Rastus Maxfield. Join us on his journey as we learn how she defied the odds. Also, I just want to let you guys know that we will be having a fundraiser for underprivileged youth, and you will be able to donate to it, and in return, you will get to see and hear me, producer Liam, and our first guest of Friendzone, Rastus Maxfield, get our legs waxed. Stay tuned for more details to come.
Anyway, so how did you get started? In weightlifting, in Whitehorse, you're a small community of 20,000. It's not like you have somebody to look up to.
Well, I wanted to be an athlete since I was quite young. I was lucky to be 7 years old the summer that the Olympics were in Canada in '88, and I had just watched the Olympics on TV as well for the winter because that's when they were both at the same time, same year, before they alternated every 2 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was like Olympic crazy when I was in grade 2, going into grade 3. And I just wanted to be like one of those athletes on the podium wearing the Canada flag and like wrapping around their shoulders like with a medal. So thought that would be so cool.
How are you crazy? Because like I'll bring up some other stories. Like we had Daria Vitti and she told us one about when she was 7. So I think 7's like the age for...
It is. Well, I mean, when you're 7, you have like a big list of things you want to do. It's like not like it was only the Olympics. I also wanted to be a Lego engineer and I had other ideas. I wanted to be a fighter pilot, I wanted to do all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't even do sports at that age at all. My mom had me when she was 16, so money was not exactly, there wasn't a lot of it, and I couldn't afford to do organized sport, but that's all I wanted to do. But luckily my mom really believed in active play, and so she, encouraged me to be quite active and physical. I had like a lot of cousins and we always played rough and tumble and everything was a competition all the time. So even though I didn't do sports, I was definitely like into physical literacy basically without knowing it. And so, I just wanted to have an athlete identity. That's what I wanted to do. And I always begged to sign up for hockey, but that was super expensive at the time. There was nothing like Kids Rec Fund to offset the cost. So there was no possibility for me to do organized sport really until first time I did organized sport. I was in grade 5 and it was Whitehorse minor soccer because there wasn't even elementary school sports at that time. I didn't do any other sports other than soccer until I went to junior high. Back in the day, it was junior high at a Porter Creek school. So I went there in grade 7, and then the world kind of opened up to me because then there was high school sports, or junior high sports. So I did everything that was available because it was free. So I didn't know weightlifting as a sport. It was at the time it was just on the stage in the gym there at Porter Creek, and the coach was a pretty cool dude who. He learned about weightlifting because he volunteered at the Commonwealth Games in 74, I think it was, in Edmonton. His buddy said, "Oh, this is a sport you'll like." Same thing. He didn't see it as a sport. He never knew anything about it, but he volunteered because his buddy was like, "Oh, you're moving up to Faro, Yukon. Like, this is a sport you need to take there." He's like, "What? I'll see what it's about."
To Faro, Yukon?
Yeah, so this coach like went and checked out weightlifting, and he was like, "Holy crap, you're so right," because you only need like a platform is basically 2 pieces of plywood and some weights, and you can have 1 athlete or 50 athletes. Yeah. You can have like 10-year-olds or 20-year-olds. Like anyone can do it. You don't need critical mass to actually get a club going. So he went to Faro and started a little bit of a dynasty there. The mine actually bought the first set of weights for the school. Wow. And he was a teacher there, so he recruited kids from school, and actually Tracy Bilski, who is the executive director at Sport Yukon, it was her dad that bought the first set of weights. He was the rec director in Faro back in the day. So small world, because she came to the Olympics with me. So
she went to the Olympics with you?
Yeah. So
I had no idea.
Yeah,
that's another story. That's
sports psychologist. Yeah,
I did not know that because like I know her and her husband went to the 2010 Olympics.
Oh, okay.
As like spectators and stuff like that because he had passes. But I had no idea that she accompanied you?
Yeah, she had like accreditation for my competition, and yeah.
Wow, we're going to get her as a side pod.
Yeah, she's got a lot of
cool stuff. About you, so like we'll add it into the next pod or like add it into this. Because like Zach gave us a few people too to like we want to go check out and like talk to them related to the Zach situation.
Sweet.
I can't believe I never heard about that before.
Yeah. Yep, she worked with a lot of, I think probably all of the Olympians that have gone to the Olympics since she's been working as a sports psychologist.
No, I know she worked with them. I didn't know she went
Yeah,
with you and stuff
yeah.
like that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really cool. So backtrack to weightlifting in Whitehorse. So when things kind of shut down in Faro, there was a teacher at Porter Creek. Mr. Sullivan was his name. He started a club there at Porter Creek.
Wes Sullivan?
Wes Sullivan, yeah. That was my first coach.
I didn't know he did any of that. So he was there, like, I was young. I think he retired when I was in grade 9 or something. Mm-hmm. Or grade 10 or...
And then he cut the ponytail. He was always talking about he wasn't cutting his hair till he retired. So.
I don't think I remember saw him with the ponytail.
Oh, maybe he cut it before he
retired.
retired.
I don't remember any of that, though.
Yeah.
I didn't do drugs, but I just don't remember it. Anyways,
it's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, he had this. He was kind of like the tough love teacher, and so you probably remember the lines he had in his class, like,
"Oh yeah, everyone was petrified of him.
Please bring your pens, pencils, workbooks, books, brains, shoes, and pants to class." I had to write that a lot. I always remembered my pants, but I forgot pants quite frequently. And yeah, like, I think I had to write 1,000 times "I will not chew gum" in class, and then I actually did it. And he's like, "What kind of idiot would actually write this 1,000 times?" I was like, I was more afraid that if I didn't do it, I'd be in trouble than if I did, you would make fun of me.
So he told you to write it 1,000 times,
And then I did.
And you did, and he made fun of you for writing it 1,000 times.
But it was like Bart Simpson writing at the chalkboard. I like developed a little system, and I was even doing it in PE class, like between shifts in like basketball, I think it was at the time.
What, during a game?
No, it was PE.
Oh,
PE
okay.
8.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, PE, because you said shifts of basketball, so I thought it was like in the game for basketball.
No, I played on the basketball team in junior high, but that's it. I think I stopped in grade 8.
Wow.
But yeah, it was actually during basketball that Wes Sullivan saw me doing sport, or approached me, I guess. So I did every sport, and I think like towards the end of grade 7, Mr. Sullivan approached me with like my track and field coach and basketball coach, and said, "Hey, you're a good athlete, and we think you should try weightlifting." And I was like, "What?" Like, all I ever wanted to be was an athlete. So I was like, "You called me an athlete, and you said I was good. Like, I am listening to what you have to say," because I still didn't see myself as that. I just wanted to be that, and yeah, it was like cool to get attention from 3 coaches at once. I was like, "Well, cool." Like, weightlifting, I never thought that was a sport, but there was like this one dude that he would have been in his early 20s, I think, and he always had like the most weight in the club at the time on the bar, and I was like, "Oh, I want to be like that guy. That's cool." And he was like lifting in the snatch, which is over your head in one movement. He was like lifting 110 kilos with like 3 plates on each side, the way it was loaded with the rubber bumpers, and I was like, "That looks sick. I want to do that." But then when I started, he said, "Okay, you can do this. You'll become a better athlete." He never tried to sell me on being a weightlifter at first. He said that I would be better at soccer, which was like my main sport. It's like, "Oh, you'll run faster, you'll jump higher, you'll be more flexible, more agile, and do it for a month, and you'll see a difference. And then you can quit if you don't want to keep doing it." So I went there, and it wasn't like lifting those big heavy weights. It was lifting a broomstick and a broken hockey stick and getting the technique. And back then there wasn't like the training weights, like the beginners weights that they have now, kind of like junior bars basically. Like the Olympic bar was 20 kilos, and that was it. Like, which I was like under 100 pounds at the time, so it's pretty hard to just pick that up and lift it properly on your first day. So I had to do a lot of technique, and it was boring, and I didn't love it. But when I came home from weightlifting, my chores were done, and basically the dishes were done. Everyone else had eaten dinner, and I just got to eat dinner and sit and talk to my mom and not do dishes. So I was like, "This is awesome." So not really smart, but the reason I kept going in weightlifting wasn't because I loved it at first. I just wanted to get out of chores, which is pretty stupid because I ended up doing a lot of work to get out of chores.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty smart. I would have done the same thing as a child.
Yeah, but like when you think about it, weightlifting is basically just work. It's like manual labor, and I was like, I don't have to stack as much wood if I go weightlift. It's like actually way easier to stack wood, but anyways.
Well, like maybe going back, like you wanted to be an athlete, and they said you could be a better athlete if you do this.
Yeah.
So that was probably part of the
motivation
too. Versus
totally.
like you're like, getting wood and doing the dishes is not going to make me a better athlete.
No, true, exactly. Although stacking wood is, I would say, my first true sport, and it definitely helped me out in my career as an athlete.
Really?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Okay, that's like, we haven't gotten
it's
that
transferable skills, you know?
Yeah, very good. An axe, cutting an axe too, or like
No,
an axe?
I wasn't chopping the wood. I was only,
Not chopping
I was
the wood?
only a
Okay.
little kid. It was just, we had a wood stove for our trailer back in the day.
Yeah.
That's all we had. No backup. So we had to
Only
keep,
wood stove?
we had to keep, yeah, we had to keep
wow.
it pumping. Yeah.
I would. I can understand why that was a priority then for sure. Because that's back when the temperature actually got cold.
Yeah, exactly. That's back when we had -40 for months.
Well, like 2 or 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
And like kids these days, it's like -25 and they're complaining and crying.
I remember like being in grade 4 and when there'd be a cold snap, I'd have to stay home from school to stoke the fire, and I'd be so bitter that I couldn't go to school. Like daytime TV sucks. I don't want to stay here by myself. It's boring.
Because I remember, I think it was like grade 2, and it was like -40 something, 50 with the wind chill. My parents had to go to work early, so they loaded me up in like those full snowsuits and you can't walk. It's basically a onesie, but like you can't really walk even, and it's like you're just like waddling around.
Yeah.
And I had to wear that all day. Not all day, but like most of the day. But then you're young and you like can't really change.
No concept
out
of time, no
and
ability
no concept
to.
Yeah, it was like the weirdest thing ever. And then it was. I wish I could have stayed home on those days because I had to wait in like the boot rooms too. Because I was like there like an hour before school. I was there before the entire staff was there. Basically, the janitor was the only one in there. But they like locked you in a cage basically in the boot room. The Jack Holland. You must have gone to Jack Holland then.
No, I went to Takini.
Oh,
I grew up in Takini Trailer Court.
Yeah. Okay. So because Jack Holland had like a boot room and they confined you from there. Confined you in there.
Oh. Wow.
When there's no staff in the school.
Oh.
So it was like a cage. We were like caged animals when we finally got out of there. All these like grade 2, grade 3 kids.
Clammy.
Sweating, exactly, but you can't take it off because you don't. I didn't think I could take it off myself.
Right.
So it's like loaded up, like it was bad. So.
Yeah.
It was just
climate
bad,
change. I guess it's not that kind of problem anymore.
No. Yeah. Now we just get forest fires and rain.
Yeah.
And lots of snow. 6 feet of snow.
Yeah, that is a lot of snow. Yeah.
So you kind of get started in weightlifting, getting out of chores.
Getting out of chores, yeah. So I didn't take it super seriously at first because I just was happy to get out of chores, and I kept on doing other sports. And I think the kind of TSN turning point, I would call it, in my career that kind of forced me to kind of drift more towards weightlifting than anything else was in between the last day of grade 8. I had an exam in the morning, and then I went home and had a nap, and I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be late for training. And I hopped on my bike and biked the little V in Mountain View Drive there and got to the gym and was like, okay, I'm here on time. I'm not going to get hassled about this. All is well. But I didn't fully wake up and I wasn't really alert, and I dropped a weight behind my head without letting go of it quick enough. And we just held on too long and broke my wrist, actually.
Wow.
So I didn't know it was broken at the time because it was back in the day before they could just like send that immediately. It had to be it couldn't be faxed even. It had to be sent to Edmonton. So
wow.
I had a metal splint and tensor bandage to stabilize it. And they're like, it might be broken. We're not sure. And then I think it was 10 days later, like, yeah, it's broken, but we can't do anything now. So I couldn't go to the Sister City soccer tournament in Juneau, which was like the thing of the summer. And because I would have had to wear it, and it was like kind of dangerous for other people and stuff. So I missed out on the soccer, and my coach in weightlifting was like, oh, maybe this is a good time to do a little more weightlifting. What you can do with the broken wrist is squats. So I did a lot of like squats, one-handed lifts with, it was actually my right hand that I broke. So I did a lot of one-handed lifts with my left hand, which really upped my coordination and technique pretty quickly. And then I did. Jared Dooling was here doing training with Mr. Sullivan, and he was the first Yukoner to play in the NHL. And he was doing like all sorts of speed and agility work. So I tried to keep up to him, which obviously I couldn't at 13 years old, but it was pretty awesome to try to. So that was super motivating for me. And at the end of that summer, just like Labor Day of going into grade 9, I went to the junior nationals, which was like kind of the real hook. I went there and won a medal, and it was U20 and I was 13. So winning a medal was like, oh, maybe I could do something with this.
So you were competing against 19 and under?
Yeah, 20 and under. Oh. You could be 20, yeah.
Oh, 20.
Yeah.
So you like, wow, that must have been incredible.
Yeah, so it was like, I did not have a clue because there wasn't the internet, which is a weird thing to think of, but there was no like way for me to compare myself or look at like averages or national results or anything anywhere. Like I just lifted and did what the coach said, and so it was like, oh, cool, I can do something with this. And then that's kind of when the coach said, hey, you could go to Canada Games, I had been to the Arctic Winter Games, so he said, the Canada Games is similar, but it's a big deal. CBC's there, like it's kind of like a mini Olympics.
CBC is like the thing back in the day. Everyone has it.
Yeah.
Yeah, up here like APTN. Was it even around back at that time with you?
Probably.
Okay, so I remember those two channels for a while.
Yeah.
If you didn't have like Whitehorse cable, it was CBC and APTN.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We did have cable in the winter. It always got cut off in the summer. So, but I only remember like TBS movies, Superstation movies for guys who like movies. I remember that stuff, but I don't really remember watching a ton of TV. But there's like pretty strict rules about nighttime routine and when it was okay to rest in my house. Yeah.
That fire's got to keep going.
That's right. Yeah.
So you are 13, so I was at your end of grade 7, just before grade 8.
And stuff, yeah, I started at the end of grade 7. I didn't train that summer, so I did like probably a couple months and then took the whole summer off and then like eased back into it. And I'd say like I started training seriously after I won a medal. Like and broke my wrist. That's when I started training seriously.
But that was at the end of that was just before grade 8 because you said
broke my wrist last day of grade 8.
Oh, last year grade 8. Okay.
Last day of grade 8. Got my medal at the Junior Nationals Labor Day weekend of grade 9. So like 4 months later or 3 months later, whatever it would be. Yeah.
And then that's what like was your your TSN turning point that just got you rolling.
Yeah, because then I think that qualified me for the Canada Games even, and then from the Canada Games I made the national team, and it just kind of all went really quickly from there.
Was there a junior national team, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
So then did you start training after that with the junior national team? So in the summers?
Sort of, like we don't have a centralized program for our sport, so it's club based, and the way they pick the national team coaches, of course weightlifting is really easy to make comparisons pound for pound and male to female. So how it works is there's like a ranking, everyone all thrown into one mix, and the best athlete, their coach gets to go to the competition basically. So if you're a coach, the only way you can do well is if you have an athlete that beats everyone. So coaches would often be like, oh, there's someone with some talent, I'll get them and I'll get my shot, so not the best system. But yeah, so I was the best pretty quickly, and like for my age group, and my coach kind of stopped just as I was transitioning into high school. So I got kind of wooed by some coaches out east that were like, oh, you do our program, you can come train with us and you won't be alone, and we'll send you stuff in the mail, because that's the only way we could back in the day. There wasn't like the instantaneous text me footage. Like there wasn't even any footage at all. Like we didn't even have a camera.
And I was thinking,
video camera.
How back then do they even like monitor your progress? So they just like give you a program and hope you did it, basically?
Yeah. So the program I got, I went to the Junior Worlds the summer between grade 9 and 10. So I went to Canada Games like spring or February of grade 9 and made the national team. And at that time, there had never been a junior women's world championships yet. So if you're female, you'd have to go in the open category. So you could be 14, but it's like competing against 30-year-olds, whatever. There just wasn't a junior category until 1995. And that was the first ever junior world championships for women. They had it for men for decades, of course, but that was the first women's one. And I was very lucky to get to go to those. So
where was that one?
That was in Warsaw, Poland.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty crazy. Like growing up here in Whitehorse, my parents had never had passports in their lives. Like grew up in the trailer court, and then all of a sudden I've got a passport and I'm flying to Poland alone.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so when I went to Poland, this coach was like, "Oh, I'll help you out." Like, I think he saw some potential for himself there.
Yeah.
So he sent me programs, and he was from Quebec, so they were like poorly translated, poorly translated, and I didn't have any way to Google or look up exercises, so I would just kind of like speculate what they were supposed to be. So super freaking dangerous, man. Like, definitely put myself in some risky situations because I just didn't know, and like we didn't have the sport science wasn't developed. Like we weren't doing dynamic warm-ups back then. It was just, okay, play with the bar for a couple minutes and then throw some weight on there. Like there was no, no mobility, none of that stuff.
Right.
And it was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, back in the day, just like give her, like
Yeah.
do what you got to do, you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they got injured, oh, they're just weak, they'll figure it
Well,
out.
that's pretty much it. So the attitude of this particular coach, who was the national coach, was like throw all the eggs against the wall and see which one doesn't break, and no kind of regard for your longevity or well-being, you know.
Yeah. Well, like by the sounds of what you were talking about the system, it kind of almost enforces that behavior to be successful with it, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So I'm sure that they have a different system now.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm pretty removed now.
We'll have to look at that. I hope for the athlete's sake they have a difference.
Yeah,
because that's literally like a player agent in professional sports is what I was thinking of as you were describing it. Like, who can I do this? Who can I woo? Who can I take advantage of essentially to boost my stock?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that you're right. It has shifted, and there's like currently the Olympic trials are on right now for Team Canada. They're in the Dominican Republic at the Pan American Championships, like earning those spots for the Olympics that are less than 100 days away now. And most of those athletes are second generation athletes whose parents were on the national team and are their coaches. So very different, way more concerned about their well-being and longevity. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And or parents that are wanting to make it better than it was for them. So
your grade 10 summer, you get to go to Poland.
Yeah.
Are you going to grade 10? Yeah. And then after grade 10, going to grade 11, are you traveling again this summer?
Yeah. So I got to go to the Junior Worlds like midsummer, and I came 6th. It was pretty cool to see like all these other girls from other countries lifting like crazy weights. So the glass ceiling was a bit broken because I had never seen super heavy weights lifted by a girl in Canada or a woman in Canada. So it was like, oh, that's possible. Cool. And so I was only like, I was the minimum age for eligibility. So you had to be born in my birth year to go to those ones. And I basically was eligible for 6 in a row, and I did manage to go 6 years in a row to the Junior Women's Worlds. And I was the only person to have done it because I went to the first 6. So and in weightlifting, there's 6 lifts in a competition. So 6 for 6 is like this coveted number. So going to 6.
You were like a trendsetter, though.
Yeah. So going to 6 Junior Worlds was like a big deal back then.
So the first person to do that, first person to come from the Yukon to the Olympics.
Yeah.
God, we got a lot of firsts here. Okay,
a lot of firsts. They don't, it's cool, but.
Cool. It's really cool.
It's cool, yeah.
Because no one can ever take that from you.
No, it's true. It's true.
You'll be an old 90-year-old person.
Somebody's got to be the first, though. So, I mean, it's cool, but also people do way cooler things as the first person.
I don't know. It's
like be a vice president of the United States. There's lots of other cooler things,
Yeah?
But anyways.
Anyways, yes, this is true. Okay. So you go there. I was going to wait for it, but now I'm curious. What are some of the things that the Quebec coach did that was very questionable? Do you have one that stands out in your mind other than like maybe do a couple squats and let's just give her like throwing like 100 pounds or 50 kilos or whatever something?
Their list is very long, and he ended up doing some time in jail, so you can go down that road yourself.
Goodness.
It's probably worse than you think, whatever you're thinking right now. But
it's definitely worse because I was not thinking jail time. I was thinking maybe like some major shoulder injuries.
Yeah, no, that just kind of shows how like not best interest he had at heart for people. But definitely his mentality was to lift more weight, just put more weight on the bar. And it didn't matter what your technique looked like or how your body felt. It was just more is more. And that's definitely not how bodies work. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just like break people down, and it was
Was he encouraging to maybe use certain substances to help performance too?
No, that is not one of the things.
Okay, when you said jail, that's what I started thinking. I started thinking of like all the
safe sport. I think safe sport, not a good person.
Okay, very good.
And hopefully we'll never listen to this podcast, although I don't really care if he knows that I think poorly of his actions and behavior.
Once you're a convicted criminal, I don't think
non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. I had what's really weird, and it's changed, that has changed in weightlifting, is it's a team qualifier. So how it used to be is, and my first tryout for the Olympics, which was the 2000 games, We had 7 women on a team, and you have to go to the World Championships as a team of 7. And how it works is the top 25 athletes, in a weight class will get points. So if you're 25th, you get a point for your team. If you're 24th, you get 2, and all the way up to first, you get more and more points. So they make an aggregate total of all 7 athletes' performances. So that's your team result, and then they rank the nations based on these aggregate totals, and the top 12 teams get spots at the Olympics, like 3 spots. And then if you're top 16, you get 2. And then after that, nothing. You have to go to the Pan American Championships, your Continental Championships, and earn 1 spot. So all these 7 people have to try to get a spot, knowing that they're probably, half of them are not even going to have a shot of being on the team. They just have to do their best and earn a spot for someone else. So even if you're, injured, that's what happened with me. I was injured and in a lot of pain and not necessarily going to be the person to get that spot, but the coach's girlfriend was a contender. So just those kind of dynamics, like, wow. It's natural that it plays out that way, but it still sucks when it's your back. So I just had a kind of your own best interest isn't necessarily the most important thing to the decision maker. So
that's nuts.
Yeah, and it is nuts too, because it's hard to not have resentment within a team when one person's like, I'm literally breaking my back to get you to the Olympics. So
okay, were you the first person to come up with that figure of speech as well? Are you the one who originated breaking my back?
Definitely not. Felt like it at times. Yeah, so it was a interesting dynamic to have like 7 people, maximum 4, likely only 3 or 2. So
did they ever explain to you why you'd have 7 need to qualify, but only
there's
4
a lot
would
of
go?
Lobbying. That was a way to try to build what the International Weightlifting Federation, which is like a very huge sport governing body, because weightlifting, like athletics and wrestling and boxing, they're sports that are like widely participated in throughout the world. Like I think there's over 100 nations that have sport governing bodies for weightlifting. So there's some old school stuff. Like their goal was to build every nation stronger, so that you wouldn't just like put all your money into one athlete and not have any depth. Okay. But it did favor heavily countries that use drugs, because then they the countries that have full teams are like Kazakhstan, Russia, China. Yeah. So it wasn't the best system, and now they've changed it to individual qualification based on World Cup and World Championships, and Continental Championships, which is what most other sports do.
So when you go to major competitions, because like Russia got busted here a few years ago for performance enhancers, and weightlifting is something that you can probably make a noticeable gain with performance enhancing drugs, there must have been people going on
drugs?
Yeah, on some of your competitions.
Yeah. That is a part of my sport I had to just accept early on, that you can like let it eat you up inside, that your competitors are probably very heavily subsidized, I guess you could say, very heavily enhanced, and you're not, and you can be better, or you can just like accept the different culture they come from. Like it's as simple as it's not cheating to them, right? Like there's no like guilt or shame or embarrassment attached. If someone a Canadian were to test positive, or one of our Yukon Olympians was later found out to have been taking drugs, like you wouldn't really even be able to show face here anymore, right?
Yeah, I know.
You would lose a whole lot of community, and all of the great things about being a Yukoner would be tainted. So that isn't the case for my competitors from Russia. They get caught, and it's just like having an injury, like, oh, bad luck.
Yes.
You missed out on the Olympics because you got caught. Like there's no like, oh, what were you thinking? Or it's just like, well, that's that's the risk.
The punishment is like, you got caught. You got to be better at cheating. Come on, learn how to do it better.
Yeah, kind of. It's kind of like that. And I mean, it's hard to get your head around, because I don't ever want to live that way. But just as they think we're ridiculous, we think that is
True.
unfair and
Different perspective.
unjust. And they're like, you still have to lift the weights. Like I've had training partners that, because we had the World Championships in Vancouver in 2003, and quite a few athletes defected to Canada, thinking like, looking at the results, because we did have the internet by then, being like, oh, look at the national team for Canada. I can make that. I'm from Romania. That's like a joke. I did that when I was 17. I can make the team. And then they come to Canada and they try to make the national team, and they find out that there's random drug testing. And they're like, what's this? What do you mean? But there's no competition for months. I shouldn't have to be drug tested. I know I'm on drugs right now. So like, they think like one of those athletes was like, that's stupid. Why do you train this hard without drugs? Yeah. Like, okay.
They probably had it down to like their old school science, where there's like, okay, you take the drugs like crazy, and then like whatever it takes, like a week or 2 or 3 weeks before the competition.
I think it's quite, it's, I mean, it sounds like a lot of stress to try to figure out there's just so many, it's just a whole different game for them, as far as like the pre-competition stress would just have so many other facets to it that we don't have, So yeah, I don't envy, and I like look at some of my former competitors, and their bodies are way more destroyed than mine, and their hormones will probably never recover, and they probably had it great when they were at the top of the sport world and in those countries, but like now what do they have? Like, it's not the same. They don't have the same social support network that we have here. Like, it's just a whole different life. So I did in 2006, I won a medal at the World Championships. I beat a Russian. I had to pay to go to the World Championships, and I don't know exactly how much she made for winning that bronze medal, but I heard they make like $250,000 American for those performances. So, I mean, I had to pay. Wow. It wasn't $250,000, but I had to pay, a significant amount of money, because Team Canada and weightlifting, it's never free. Right. It's like a sliding scale depending on how well you do, but a medal at the World Championships, you still pay. And then, my competitor who was taking drugs that I beat was given a big giant bonus. And it's like, okay, but like at the end of the day, I get to live in Canada, so I think that's worth a lot of money.
No, absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah.
It's just crazy how they value things so differently in different places.
Differently, exactly. And that's what it is. It's like, what do we value? And I think, yes, that valuing sport is very important, but like even looking now with the pandemic, like sport has a very important place, but not above humanity. So, yeah. And that's what I think is what I learned young, and I'm glad to have learned that young. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great lesson.
Yeah. For
sure. So, can we fast forward a little bit? Yeah. You went to 2008.
Yeah, that's right.
Olympics in Beijing, if I remember correctly. Yes, Beijing. Can you take us through that experience? So, your qualifying usually is about a year ahead?
Yeah, so, it's actually 2 years for how weightlifting works. Mm-hmm. So, the World Championships for 2006 and 2007 were the qualifiers for our women's team for weightlifting. And as I kind of explained earlier, I did really well in the 2006 Worlds. So I got our team basically 25 points at that World Championships.
Oh, you got first?
Pretty cool. I got second.
Okay, yeah.
It's actually 28 points for first, 26 for second, and 24 for third. Complicated, but yes. But then it goes down to one point increments. But yeah, so I was able to do a pretty earn us a ton of points, and other athletes did quite well, and we had a couple other top 10s and top 20s. So. We did really well there, and we were able to do well again in 2007, and we got 3 spots for the Olympics, which was awesome, because 2000 were the first ever Olympics that women lifted, and we got 1 spot, and same in 2004, both through the Continental Championships, and both times it was the same athlete, Marie Stercott, who went to both of those games. So it was like, boom, now we've got 3 new athletes going to the next game. So it was pretty awesome for us. And yeah, it was stressful for sure. I think that sometimes the Olympic qualifications are so stressful that people arrive at the Olympics a little fried. And I think that kind of happened to me. But yeah, it was pretty intense, because it was my 3rd crack at the Olympics. I I was alternate in 2000 and also in 2004, and then finally it was happening in 2008. So I was like, my body was getting a bit worn down, so it was like, just gotta get on that plane, man.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, it was cool. I didn't have the best competition of my life, but I mean, that happens to a lot of people, that they get there and it's not the personal best records and stuff. So
yeah. What was like your reaction when you knew you had qualified for the Olympics?
When I knew I had qualified. So it's so complex because there's team qualifications. So when I knew we had 3 spots, I still didn't have one of them, even though I was doing so well. So I think it would have been March that I finally knew I was going, and it was like, oh, okay, sweet, for about 10 minutes, and then it's like time to train again. Yeah, it was pretty cool though, because it was a childhood dream. So
yeah,
and it just feels like when you're that close and you're working that hard at it, it's like something that could like slip through your hands if you get unlucky. So yeah, it was pretty rad. And my mom also had been selected as a official. She was the first female technical official ever selected to work at the Olympics. So that was pretty cool.
So she got to go and watch you there?
Yeah, she could have been a technical official for my competition, but she didn't want to. So it would have been enjoyable. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Because like otherwise it's probably very hard to get over to Beijing to watch the Olympics and watch you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you go to the Olympics. What was the experience like there? If you could just describe what it was like. Like, was it overwhelming? What was Beijing like? Because we talked to Zach Bill earlier, and then we have some other things that you guys will connect on a little bit later. But what was it like there?
Well, I had been to, as Zach too, had been to the Commonwealth Games in 2006 in Melbourne. That was the last multi-sport games that I had gone to before the Olympics, and Melbourne was like unreal. It was a blast. Like, they took the 2000 Sydney Olympics. It was the same group of people. Like, what could we have done better there? And they took it to Melbourne, which is a beautiful city in Australia, and they made it even better. So it was just like the best time ever. So everyone was like, oh man, this is what the Commonwealth Games is like. Imagine what the Olympics will be like. It'll be awesome. And then I went to Beijing, and it wasn't awesome. It wasn't, it was Greijing. That's what a lot of people called it. So it was kind of like a wah-wah. I mean, it was still the Olympics, but the vibe in the athletes village was pretty muted, and you couldn't really easily go anywhere, and it just looked gray. Like, you know, when it's ice fog outside, when it is minus 40 sometimes still, that's what it looked like outside of the condos we were staying in. And it was heavily air conditioned, so you're like freezing in your condo, and you look outside and you're like, oh my god, it's cold, I need a hoodie. Then you walk outside and it's like, you know, just this wall of steam and heat and smog. So that was a weird thing. And yeah, it was just like, it looked better on TV than in person, if that makes sense. Like, you see, like, even when you're at the closing ceremonies, you're like looking at the screen, you're like, whoa, and you're like, no, it's right in front of you, like, look. So yeah, that's what I kind of noticed, is like a lot of it is about what's on TV and like how it shows. I mean, it was still cool, and I still like got to meet a lot of friends from other sports in Canada and stuff, but China itself, I mean, a lot of athletes that had been to multiple Olympics said, well, it's like kind of missing the fun. Like, you know, I went to the Vancouver Paralympics, and I was like, man, this is unreal. Like, the people are into this, but they didn't have the same community vibe in Beijing. And I mean, it makes sense because they were trying to get people off the streets and out of Beijing. And it just wasn't the same festival of sport that other Olympics I've been to. I've been to now 4 Olympics. So yeah, it was not the funnest one, but coolest to go as an athlete for sure. But yeah, no, that experience was kind of like, it was cool to compete, and I'm proud that I went, and it was awesome, but it wasn't, it's sort of like, I compare, if you think like graduation night is going to make every exam you ever studied for, or any homework you handed in, or any of the hardships of high school, all be like, yeah, that was so worth it. You'll be let down. So it's just a thing in itself, and it's not correlated to everything before, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that's a really, really good analogy. I think that's a good way of translating it over. You went and you said your performance wasn't as good as you want because you were kind of like were you too anxious when the games came around, or were you just too fatigued?
I think I was a little, like, I was overtrained in the year leading up to the Olympics, for sure. And, like, a lot of it is my own fault. Like, I wrote my own training plans. And it's really easy to put the gas on when you're coaching yourself, not so
you didn't have a coach at that time? So was Quebec guy already locked up? Or was he...
Quebec guy wasn't locked up, but he was not my coach anymore.
No, he wasn't there yet? You saw the writing on the wall? Like
no, we didn't connect. He said I was a difficult athlete, and I think it's because I just didn't want to do things his way, and because my radar was going off. I didn't like his way. It's that simple. But I was happy to do my own programs, but and my mom was like a big support for me. And on paper, we had put her as my coach, but that was a bit of a tricky thing because that meant she could potentially be the national team coach, which wasn't a good thing in weightlifting because there's a lot of people who are like, "Whoa, she can't coach everyone. She doesn't know what she's doing," and it caused a bit of controversy. And I had a lot of pressure to pick a coach from one of the other national team athletes and take them on as my own coach as well. Yeah. So that's what I was doing, but on paper mainly, and I did my own program and coached myself.
Okay. So you felt like you overtrained a little bit leading up to your...
because I had it was really easy to push. Like I wrote the program, so obviously I'm like, well, I got to do it. I said I was going to do it. So easy to put on the gas, hard to put on the brakes when you're making your own decision, because it's like you get into that head game of like, am I really tired or at risk, or am I just not feeling it?
Yeah.
Which now I know when you're at that level, if you're not feeling it, it's probably because you shouldn't. When in doubt, leave it out.
But to be fair, back in that time, like concussions where you don't have a concussion, you're just weak, you're soft, you just gotta get tougher. Injuries, no. True athletes fight through it.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So when you hear that constantly and there's no one else there to look out for you.
Exactly. And the real thing that, I didn't learn it till after my career, unfortunately, is it's not what you can do, it's what you can recover from. It's not... Yeah. The training that makes you better, it's the recovery that makes you better. So yeah, I definitely did too much. And I don't regret it because I did at the time even question, like, am I doing too much? I don't know. At least I'll know that I didn't do too little, you know? It was like, I'll be a workhorse and that's what I'll be able to pride myself on regardless of the outcome. So I wish that I would have had a coach I could trust from a much younger... It was too late to start working with someone all of a sudden and put all of my work into their hand because, like, you seem lazy. So if you're telling me to go home, it feels like you just want to go home too, you know? So
if you could do it all over again, is that one thing that you really would change, is try to find a good coach that you trust at a younger age?
Yes. And I think they wouldn't have to be from the sport of weightlifting. Like I did surround myself with a lot of people that worked hard in other sports and in other areas in life. And I think that's what matters most. It's not the actual expertise in weightlifting. It's like understanding the human body and the human mind.
Okay.
But yeah, and I mean, I'm proud of myself that I was able to go that far on my own. And I coached other athletes on the national team too. And it's interesting how... the kind of power structure is like athletes, you can never get recognition for being a good coach when you're still an athlete. There's like, you have to be one thing and not the other, if that makes sense. Like there's very little recognition for ability. Well, you only coached yourself, so you don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not really coaching. It's like, well, it's actually pretty hard. It's kind of worse. So, yeah.
So when you're at the Olympics, you're competing, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't you, wherever you finished, because of years later with drug testing, you've actually kept moving on the way up because so many people tested positive?
Yeah.
For performance enhancers?
Yeah. I finished 8th at the time. And actually, like, now that you say that, I did have a little argument with my coaches because I wanted to do different weights than they wanted me to, because I'd already had an attempt under my belt, essentially. And I wanted to take a big aggressive jump, and they were like, no, it's too heavy, you can't do it. And I was like, you don't freaking know me if you think I can't do that. So it was a little frustrating.
So this would have been so funny. Sorry for interrupting, but this would have been so funny if you were still your own coach and you're like arguing with yourself. And the competitors are watching this and you're like, we're on drugs, but she's crazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh God, what kind of drugs is she on if she's arguing with herself? Like, got like split personality disorder. Maybe looking back, you could have done that, and they would have thrown off their game because they would have thought you're just like literally a lunatic.
There's a lot of people talking to themselves back there. I don't know if I would have been sticking out
You'd have
from
been
the
just like
crowd.
normal.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was 8th. If I would have made one more lift, I would be a medalist right now. I made 3 out of 6, which isn't good. I missed my first lift in the snatch and made my second and missed my third, and then I only made 2 clean and jerks out of 3. So not awesome day. One more lift, either exercise or lift, I would have been a medalist right now. So that's hard to swallow. I think I would be silver medalist right now.
Yeah.
But that's sport. I mean, other people miss lifts too, so
Yeah.
can't
But if you
dwell on
like,
that. But
you went for it.
yeah.
It hasn't worked out yet though. Like we'll give it time here.
Well, unfortunately, the time limit's up and they stopped testing, so that's a bit of a kick in the teeth too. Because there's 4 girls ahead of me and they stopped testing them. So the girl in first is from Kazakhstan. Her whole team is tested positive, but she hasn't been retested. So. And then Spain, which is likely, they have very similar ethics to us, and then Mexico and Colombia. So, anyways, maybe one of them at least would have been a positive.
But if you didn't go for it and you just took your coach's recommendation,
I didn't go for it. They wouldn't let me do what I wanted.
Oh,
to.
they didn't?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if you did go for it, you could have
maybe
had a chance with it.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's one of those things. I mean, it's easy to say after the fact.
Yeah.
I don't blame them. They were being conservative and making the call they thought was best, but that kind of cut me off at the knees, kind of killed my spirit a little bit, because I was like, I like to do big gutsy things, and they didn't, and that's what I think the sport is big gutsy moves. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of talk about if you had a better coach, a better relationship with that coach.
Yeah.
If so Wes Sullivan was coaching you originally and he stopped coaching and stuff like that, would you have kept with him if you could have, if he was going to continue?
If I could have, if he would have continued, I'm sure. Yeah. But it's hard to know when you're that age if you can, because in some other countries they have almost like a pyramid scheme of coaching where there's one person that identifies the talent, and then you have to pass them on to the next level of coach.
Yeah.
And it actually works really well, because it's
Really?
like having a teacher. You don't want to have the same teacher from kindergarten to graduation. You're not going to learn as much.
True, that makes sense. When you said pyramid scheme, I was like, oh, this
It is essentially.
But yeah, no, I get what you're
and
saying.
then the athlete, if the athlete were to go all the way, they still give recognition to that first coach all the way through their journey. So
that's actually pretty smart, because then every coach has weaknesses, every coach has strengths. So then coaches that have developed athletes in a bad way in their weaknesses area, they'll get covered up when they have a different one.
Yeah, and then hopefully the athlete can build their toolkit and take a little something from everybody, and then have a great sports science team around them. And
So we had Zach on last week. He said he has a story. He wouldn't tell us what the story was, but you two met up. This is the first Olympics that any Yukoner has gone to.
Summer, yeah.
First summer Olympics that anyone has gone to. You guys meet up during the closing ceremonies, and there's a story that you're supposed to tell us that he...
Oh, yeah. So lately, I think there's been a lot of attention around political statements at the Olympics, like how you're not allowed to wave your own flag other than your country's, country flags only, no political messages, no logos, no brands, no symbols. But Zach and I got a Canadian flag and a Sharpie, and we wrote "Thank you, Yukon" on it.
Really?
Which is actually totally against the rules. We didn't realize how serious it was. But yeah, so we wrote that on the flag, and then he hopped on my shoulders and we walked into the stadium like that. So carried him in on my shoulders and he waved the flag. So we were like, yeah. Did
the security come running flying over? And
no, we actually we had no problems, but.
Okay. So they're going to haul you off and be like, you could not do this. And you're like, that person's literally injecting steroids right now. Like, no, who cares about that?
That's
no.
Right. It's what's on TV right now.
It's what's on TV. That's all we care about.
Yeah.
Money, ad revenue, that's what matters.
It's pretty funny, yeah. And just the other day, I saw a picture. We weren't in it, but it was a bunch of people being carried in on shoulders in those controversial closing ceremony outfits from Beijing. They were pretty cheesy, but lovable cheesy. But if you Google it, yeah. Because when the denim jacket for 2020 Olympics, which they're still calling it, came out with spray paint and graffiti look to it, people were like, polarized by it. So they brought up some other controversial stuff on the social media, and that was one of the images was people on shoulders, and I thought of Zach too. It's like, oh, there we were breaking the rules.
Rebels
with a cause.
Rebels with a cause. So, as we talked about before, you're kind of like the first Yukon Olympian.
Summer Olympian by day.
Sorry, Summer Olympian. Whatever, we're going with Olympian.
By one day.
We're taking.
What was really cool about that is I got to see Zach compete. So
yeah.
Had it been the other way around, he would have been forced to watch me, which would have been way less interesting.
Actually, no. I'm sure he would have loved it, especially if he saw that argument with you and your coach. Because you get very passionate, and like with your coach and stuff like that, that probably would have been very entertaining to watch, to say the least.
I think it was all behind the scenes, unfortunately, or fortunately, probably.
Fortunate for you, not fortunate for entertainment.
Yeah.
But the Yukon's so small. We don't produce a lot of high-level athletes. What does that mean to be able to be like, you were one of the pioneers up here? And a lot of people, your name comes up when they say, well, I can't do this. And they're like, you know Jeane? Jeane can do it. Why can't you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's hard is how long the road is, right? Like, I missed 2 Olympics. I tried twice and didn't make it. And I finally got to go in 2008. And like, I went to Canada Games in 1995. So for kids right now, training for the Canada Games, thinking 13 years beyond that is like an overwhelming thing, right? But I actually found this shirt. I went to the World Championships, the Olympic trials for 2008. We're in Chiang Mai, Thailand in 2007. So I actually had to fly through China to come back to the Yukon. And there was this Nike t-shirt that said, "The road is long, so what?" And I was like, damn, that's pretty good. So I bought the shirt.
Yeah.
I don't still have it, unfortunately, but it was like yeah.
Actually, she's lying. She has it on right now. So no.
I always wear it. I'm a never nude. I always have.
That would be the sickest story. The podcast would stop. We'd literally end it. We'd have to like a mic drop on that. That would be insane.
Yeah. So I think that's like a pretty cool message. Because the thing about the Olympics is it's really cool that I can say that I went there, but everything that happened that got me there is where I got the lessons and the life experience and like got me to where I am now. Yeah, the being able to say that I went to the Olympics, that opened some doors, and maybe some people will listen to what I have to say a little bit more, but mostly not. Like it seems like you're only getting my highlight reel if you know that I went to the Olympics, but there's lots of other cool stuff that happened in sport that is way cooler than that moment of being deemed an Olympian. So,
but I think it shows your perseverance, like 13 years from Canada Summer Games to that. It shows how hard it is and how much you have to be resilient, and you can never give up. And like that t-shirt there, I think epitomizes what your journey in life and through sport.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing is like had at any point it didn't work out, like there's that fear that it wasn't going to, had it not worked out, like my life wouldn't be so different because I would have still done all of the things to get to that point and met all the people that I met and had all the choices I had to make. So when people feel overwhelmed, like if you're in grade 10 right now and you're like, oh my God, like there's so much work left to do between now and getting to where I want to be. It's true there is, but time will pass anyway. So you might as well give it have a go at it, and wherever you fall, it will be all right because you were doing something with your time instead of just kind of pissing it away on the Instagram and
TikTok.
Like,
TikTok these days.
Yeah, TikTok nowadays.
That's right, TikTok.
Yeah.
And like maybe not even taking the chance of doing the TikTok dances, but just sitting on the back, sitting back and watching everyone else do it. Because even if you're like engaging in some way, you're doing something, but it's really easy to be passive and not able to make a decision about what you're going to do.
Well, and like I'm gonna kind of push back, and I disagree with you saying like the Olympics is a very huge milestone. It's just like we kind of talked at the beginning before the pod about like Kamala Harris is now the vice president in the United States. Even though she's had such a long road to get there, and it's been publicized heavily if you follow anything to do with the U.S. election, that still gives women the understanding that they can achieve that. And I would not be shocked if she's the U.S. president in 4 years from now. Mm-hmm. And that's going to, like, even though her journey is just like yours, takes a long time, she's been involved in it for so long, I think getting to that level shows that anything is possible. Not to steal Adidas' tagline and slogan, but
it's true that impossible is nothing.
Impossible is nothing. Was that actually?
Yeah, that's actually what it is.
Oh, okay. There we go. Good. I'm glad we weren't crediting Adidas there. Okay.
I also have the 3 stripes on under my pants. No.
Okay, there. Nike t-shirt and Adidas.
Yeah,
She's
there you go.
multicultural.
Got it all. No, you're right that people need to be those glass ceiling breakers, and you need to see people like you doing those things in order to feel like you can do them too. But I have to say, like, I'm really proud that I went to the Olympics, but there's a couple things I'm more proud of, and one is my friend Christine. I went to the 2008 Olympics. I thought I was done with sport. I didn't plan a retirement, but it kind of just happened. I started teaching at Whitehorse Elementary, and it's like hard to train really hard and be a teacher, as I'm sure every teacher will attest to. And then I decided kind of last minute in 2011, like, oh, you know what? I still got time. I'm going to make the fastest comeback ever. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to go to the opening ceremonies because I didn't in 2008. I'm going to go to the London Olympics. It's going to be so rad. And I did get really close. I actually qualified for the Olympics. I was like on the team, and 4 days later I injured my back. And at that time, because I was a teacher, I decided to leave Whitehorse and go to Victoria and train there for the year before the Olympics. Like, it was 10 months, I think. And when I was on the floor crying because I herniated a disc, it turned out, and I knew my Olympics was probably over. The coach at the Sport Institute was like, Jeannie, don't worry, I'll give you a job. You could be the coach of the sports school. I was like, what? Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Like, I'm ugly crying. And like, I had been lobbying about the sports school in Victoria for a long time because they always wanted one in Whitehorse, and there was no way to agree on what it should look like because there was like talks of it could be a ski school, it could be hockey, all these things, but there was nothing that was really inclusive, like this model that we totally plagiarized from the Sport Institute in Victoria. And after, 3 weeks later, I was like, my Olympic dreams are over. I need a job now. Well, I finished school here in Victoria, and I went to the coach and I said, hey, are you serious about that? And once I got into the sports school working there, we were able to lobby really well, and along with Mr. Thompson, especially at FH Collins, the wheels got in motion, and we were able to get a sports school going here just by being a greasy wheel, basically, and being annoying. But for me, like, the reason it's so dear to my heart is like all of the things I wish I would have known when I was younger are things that we try to teach the kids in sports school and give them an opportunity to learn, and with other athletes coming in to talk to them and learning about sprinting, Olympic lifting, and gymnastics. It's like those movement patterns that will help you have the best chance at learning new movement patterns in the future and staying healthy. So I don't know, I think it's like well over 100 athletes that have gone through that now, and to me that's way cooler than me having gone to the Olympics. If me going to the Olympics was like helping people listen a little closer to my squeaky wheel, then that's cool. But that same injury also helped me become a coach to my friend. We were coaching each other in 2011 and 12, Christine Gerard. We're like kind of acting as each other's brakes a little bit because we both had these big ideas, and it's like really easy to see when someone else is running themselves into the ground and being ridiculous. A little harder for yourself. So we did that for each other. We kind of like would make suggestions, kind of like keep things realistic. And then when I injured my back, I just fully went into her corner and was one of her coaches along with her husband. And she won a bronze medal at the 2012 Olympics. So that was a really cool experience, which she's also been a victim of unfair practices in sports. So she's a very, she went up to gold, basically. Her performance is now a gold medal.
Wow.
From the 2012 games. And her performance at the 2008 games was a 4th place and is now bronze. So in 2018, she was given both of those medals finally at a ceremony in Ottawa. And I was invited to be her flower presenter. So that was pretty awesome. So those two things, like, it's not what I was able to achieve, but like the kind of hard lessons and difficult moments were able to make things a little easier for someone else. And I think that's, Kamala Harris. I cannot even imagine the long list of things that felt like she was banging her head on a cement wall. But the fact that now she's had like this ability to reach everyone and give this hope and ambition to others, I think that's probably much cooler than what we'll see her actually do in her lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of talked about it a little bit already. What is something, if you were talking to someone that a 7-year-old you, or someone that's like 12 or 13 or whatever, what would you tell them if you could give them some advice right now?
I go to the communities quite a bit. I was really fortunate to be the ambassador for the Arctic Winter Games, and in the past I've worked with Sport Yukon doing community outreach, and so I do get a chance to talk to a lot of kids. And the thing I always say is play hard and have fun, because if you play hard, that doesn't mean be a jerk. I just mean like just give her butt. Just get after it. It doesn't really matter what you're doing, like especially in the rural Yukon. I mean, Whitehorse, there's less options than down south for sure, but like even more so in the rural Yukon, it's really easy to get like caught up on what isn't there. And like, you know, if you're in Pelly, like you have a teacher that's into badminton and badminton becomes strong and then they leave, and then what? You can get discouraged. But the reality is just take the opportunity that's there. You don't know what it's going to lead to later. Like I was really fortunate to get to try bobsled, but that doesn't matter who you are here in high school now. Like you can't do bobsled when you're 17. So do everything else. And then when you're 18, 19 and move to Edmonton, you can go try bobsled. So it's just like take the opportunities that are there and participate. Cause you never know, like you might think it's stupid, like weightlifting. I never would have sought that out at all. It's just by getting my tires pumped really that I had the willingness to try it. Right. So yeah. That and like we live right now, so don't not enjoy yourself now because of some goal, especially when you're 7, some goal so far down the road. Like sport is supposed to be fun at the end of the day, you know, like for sure the higher level you get, the more that it shifts to like seriousness and more work. But when you're a kid, it's supposed to be like almost entirely fun. So you do have to do those basic skills, and you know, not everyone loves practice, and sometimes it will be annoying, but the overarching emotion should be fun. And so
no, I think that's a great message. That's really good for everyone listening.
I would use different words to say that to a 7-year-old, but yeah.
You have fun.
Go
do
have
your
fun.
best.
Get him, Tiger.
Get him, Tiger. There we go. Yeah.
But just like I think really it is the try things that you wouldn't expect to necessarily be fun.
Yeah. And keep an open mind.
Yeah, keep an open mind. Like there's a ton of things I didn't do when I was a kid because I was like, I thought like skipping and gymnastic type things were too girly and I didn't want to do them. Like, God, like how stupid. I should have done cartwheels. Like, why didn't I do cartwheels? I would be a better athlete right now if I would have done more of that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
No, that's great. Not sure if you'll have any of these, but was there like one during your entire long, like maybe going back to 7 years old, during your entire career, is there one moment that stands out the most for you? It could be the most irrelevant thing to most people, but maybe you went somewhere and you had this certain type of food, or you had this one experience or this. What stands out the most to you throughout your career?
Stands out the most, man. That's super hard to narrow it down. But like sometimes I talk about, it feels like another life, like it wasn't mine. Like sometimes I talk with the kids I work with, and I'm like, oh yeah, when I was living in Italy, and I'm like, I really did that. I really got to live in Italy because I lifted some weights. Like for a point of time, I was on a French weightlifting team. They have a league basically like the Bundesliga for weightlifting.
What, really?
Yeah, so I got to live in Rome. And
when was this?
2007. I lived in Rome and I flew to France for weekends to lift weights. Like, and I learned Italian because of it. Like I got to do really cool stuff, and I'm like, wow, like that was way cooler than any result I could have had. Yeah. Like I wouldn't trade a medal at the Olympics for having like learned another language. And like later down the line, hopefully my brain will be a little more resistant to Alzheimer's because I went to train in Italy. So
yeah. So you were over there and just basically lifting weights and weightlifting. Sorry, not like weightlifting and training and doing all that stuff like that. And that was your job for like a year.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't for 7 months. I think it was. So basically, like how it worked is there's 4 people on a team, and you do your total, so your best snatch result and your best clean and jerk result are added, and then they subtract your body weight. So if I was doing something in the 240s and I weighed 70 kilos, then I would have 170 points, and then the other girls points would be added to that, and again the aggregate concept. So basically, every team was allowed to have one foreign athlete. So I was just like a hired gun, and I just got paid based on how much I lifted in euros, and it was awesome.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was super cool.
And would they have like big not maybe it's stadiums, but like large venues, and the fans are just going crazy because they're so passionate about it there?
Yeah, they're more passionate about there, and like it is interesting. Like weightlifting is getting to be more well known here because of CrossFit largely. Like when I went to Texas for the World Championships, there was like all these vendors. Like there was like 20 different brands selling weightlifting shirts that had like different cool logos and slogans, and nothing as cool as the road is long, but so what? But they were cool. They were cool shirts, and it was just packed. And there was like in between sessions they were playing Black Sabbath, and I was like, man, I would have been cool if in high school if this was what it was like, but nobody else was weightlifting and everyone thought Black Sabbath was dumb. Yeah. Here I was alone listening to Black Sabbath in this cold shack lifting weights, and like fast forward when my career's already over and now it's cool. Like, dang. You
were too early.
I was a hipster.
Well, it's like when I look at NBAs are really, I follow the NBA so much, and they'll look at like players that come up, and it's like, were they in their time, that they come out too early, just the right time, or too late?
Yeah, I definitely came out too early.
And you were too early, yeah. You would have been
an early adapter. Yeah, I it's funny, like when I was I took some time off after 2000, so I've had a lot of retirements and come back, but I made the Olympic team as an alternate in 2004, and I was pumped about it because I had taken this time away and I never thought I'd get back to that level that quickly. And I decided to represent Quebec because then I could get more support, which I'm embarrassed that I did, but I had to do it to get the sport services right.
No idea. So you were representing Quebec?
Yeah, for very.
Oh, is this that coach though? That
it wasn't even with that coach. No.
Oh wow!
It was just because they had like the sports center services were like I could get nutrition services, massage weekly. I could get athletic therapy daily for free.
Wow!
Like it was a lot of services.
Yeah.
It was worth it. One of the things was a strength and conditioning coach. So this is in 2004. This is the NHL lockout year. I get lined up with this strength and conditioning coach because his gym is close to where I live. The people at the Sport Institute were like, your sport is strength and conditioning. Why do you want to work with another coach? And I was like, because I'm my coach. I want some ideas. Like everyone weightlifts to get better at their sport. This guy probably has some things he can tell me. I showed up for my first session with him, and the athlete in front of me was Jose Theodore, which was the goalie for the Montreal Canadiens at the time. And I was like, whoa, sick. This guy's legit. And he was awesome. And he it was a lockout year, so he was looking for something to do. And he got me on all these different like dynamic warm-ups, like the bands. That was the first time I'd ever seen the like TheraBands.
Wow.
2004. Right? Like no one had this back then. It was yeah, so I was doing all these, I had found some warm-ups on my own online, but this guy gave me like wicked stuff. So I started going to the gym, and now I'm taking, 25, 30 minutes to warm up, and no one else is doing any sort of warm up or even drinking water for that matter. So they're like, what are you doing? And they just were like mocking me and making fun of me. And then, like 2 years later, everyone's doing it. And now like, there's no question, no one would do it. And it's not because of me. It's just like, that's how things go, right? Like people, we learn something and then it's normalized. And so, yeah, if you're one of those people that wants to seek out the new ways to do things, it can be a rough ride.
No, absolutely. Well, like everyone wants conformity and everyone wants to do it easy. And
so you're totally right. There are people that are like ahead of their time, and it's like trailblazing isn't easy. You're like cutting trail. You're getting scarred up, but hopefully making it easier for the people behind you because you're bushwhacking, making it better for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great analogy. I would say that's kind of what you've done, I think, for sport in the Yukon.
Thank you, man. That's a super nice compliment.
Yeah, well, it's true. I speak the truth.
Ah, sweet. But the sports school has a lot of people involved, like Chris Kirk.
Yeah,
that's one of the other people that made it huge, and Jamie Shaw for sure.
Yeah,
and Mr. T. Yeah, and a ton of people that have put their heart and soul into that place. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Maybe we'll just talk a little bit about you going in 2018 as a mentor.
Oh, 2018, yeah. So I was super lucky to be chosen as the athlete mentor for Team Canada for the Pyeongchang Olympics. So what that looked like is there's two villages at the Winter Games, one in the mountains and one on the coast. And I got to be at the coast village, so with all the arena sports. and the athlete mentors basically run the athlete lounge. So it's athletes only there, no coaches or any administrative people are welcome. It's just a place for athletes to kind of let their guard down and be themselves, and the athlete mentors are there to make sure everyone's comfortable, connecting, feeling supported, and if an athlete has something to vent about, the athlete mentors who they can go to without any fear of, not being able to start their game or having to miss a practice. Like there's no worry about ramifications or team dynamics being affected by any interactions with the team mentors. So basically, we were just kind of like living room moms or dads, or I don't know how to really describe it, but it's just basically because it's a very uncomfortable time as much as it's exciting and fun. You have to sit with some uncomfortable feelings leading up to your competition, of course, right? It's like the most important competition of your life, most likely. So it's just to help you be more comfortable, help the athletes be more comfortable being uncomfortable.
So you kind of like our parent because you got those 47 hats you have to do, from like being like a motivator, supporter, counselor, like
make sure that everything's clean and there's coffee and snacks and So it was a great way to understand my own career even better. So I feel very fortunate to have been able to do that. It definitely helped me process the years prior, and I think it's an ongoing thing. Like I'm still processing what happened in my sport career and understanding it better, and I don't think that will probably ever end. So
it's good. Reflecting and everything
it
really helps you learn.
I can't imagine. I feel sad for people that don't reflect because they're missing out on a whole lot of their experience. Yeah,
and gaining more information and becoming better at what they're doing in the future.
That's right.
As they go through. Was there one of those athlete lounges there probably was an athlete lounge, but was there a mentor in 2008?
No, it wasn't the same role at that time, that was the reason I was very, I really wanted to go in that role, was because I didn't have that, and it was a lonely games. I was I wasn't with the weightlifters. I was like just the way the numbers worked and everything, because we're basically in a condo, an unfinished condo is what the athletes village is, and just the way the numbers worked. I was with the wrestlers, not the weightlifters, which was cool because I knew most of them. But then it turned out that the wrestlers didn't stay in the actual village until after they competed. So for 3 weeks, I was alone in a condo in Beijing. So very lonely. I hung out with like the Italian team because I'd been training there. But when it came to like Team Canada, I was like just alone in a condo, and it was a downer, and like not the time in your life you want to be lower energy. So I was like, man, if there would have been a place I could have gone and watched, we it's silly, but we had friends on all the time in the athletes lounge because we had I think 6 TVs in the athletes lounge, so we could get every sport as it was live. But whenever there wasn't 6 sports all at once, there was always one TV that had friends on, because everyone, no matter who they were, you could walk in and know what's going on and have a laugh and like totally check out from the games time. And we couldn't find any other show that was universally accepted. Like people like, can we just watch Rick and Morty for 5 minutes, please? and then it like turned into quite that'd be a battle, a battle. And then people were like, I want to watch this feminist artist, and it just was like, no, Friends does not cause any, like people can hate on it all they want, but playfully hate on it, and it's fun.
Well, it's a transcendent show.
Exactly. It's transcendent.
And it was on Netflix. I think they just took it off, and it's on another streaming service now. But kids that are 12, 13 years old
still like it.
Watch it like crazy. Yeah. And I think it stopped producing in 2004 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like we're talking 15 years ago, like people that weren't even born.
Totally. Yeah.
Are watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's not a time you want to be arguing like at the games. You don't want to be arguing you're wasting energy arguing your point. I think someone had also suggested Black Mirror that lasted 1 episode, and it was like too serious. Check it out.
Yeah, it's how do you describe it? It's good, but it really makes you like question a lot.
Think and question, and that's not what you want to do at the Olympics.
Not a good time to be questioning
to be like, am I shallow? Is this meaningless?
Well, the best thing about Friends is all you got to do is yell pivot. You know, when I say pivot, you know exactly. Everyone knows that. Producer Liam, have you watched Friends?
I haven't.
You should. You should join Because then somebody will just yell, pivot! Pivot! And everyone understands exactly what you're saying.
I'll add it to my list.
You'll have to add it to the list, yeah.
Or it was a break. We were on a break. That's the other one everyone knows.
Yeah, I don't know.
Heard of
Pivot
that.
more.
That's not near.
See?
I've
Yeah,
heard
there
of
you go.
that, yeah.
Pivot to me is the most iconic
heard
one
of
from it. Just because I don't know, like, and there's clips everywhere too.
Or how you doing? That's another
Yeah.
Oh
one.
yeah, how you doing? That's a good one
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Pivot is just so funny.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite one. Yeah, we're not going to do this in a Friends podcast. Maybe we should start another podcast with we talk about Friends.
To people that have never seen it, but like find the pop culture references from people who have never seen it.
Maybe I wasn't even thinking about that. I just want to talk about it because like we all have our favorite episode. Like I have my favorite episodes from season 9 when Rachel's
so
sisters come.
Really?
Why? Because like they think Ross is a falafel guy. Like I think it's Christina Applegate or something like that. Is like
That's one of her sisters.
And
I
then
think
the
Reese
highlight
Witherspoon.
of the entire show is when, for me, Joey finds out that Monica and Chandler are going to an adoption agency, and then they are getting a reference, and then Joey wants to be the one that writes the reference letter, and he wants to sound smart, so he thesauruses every single word. Have you seen that one?
No, that sounds like Joey. I love Joey.
It
He's
is
my
the best
favorite.
one. You should look it up. So they're like, what is the purpose of this, or what did you try to say? It's like, they are warm with big hearts. And it's like, that turned into, they are human prepossessing Homo sapiens with large aortic pumps. And something like that goes on. And then and then it's like signed, because his name's Joey, signed baby kangaroo because the thesaurus is named Joey.
You can't make that stuff up.
Oh, it was so
guess
good.
somebody did, but.
And then at the end of the episode, they're like, we got a call, we got the baby. And then Joey's like, all right. And then he like walks out or whatever. And they're like, they thought it was really smart of us to have a 5-year-old write the letter. Because Joey ended up scratching that one and writing a real letter. Yeah, best episode.
Classic.
Season 9, some episode in season 9, watch it. It's the best episode of Friends. I was watching. Anyways, that was our Friends podcast for today.
Yeah, there you go. I'll leave the equipment
Now
and
you
you can
just
just
gotta
talk to yourself.
Keep
Just
talking
like
about
do the
Friends.
outro as the Friends theme song and
Yeah.
end of podcast.
Yeah, and then we have to pay money for that, I'm
Yeah.
sure. There's probably marketing rates.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anyways, we will wrap this up. Jeannie, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll have to have you back with something, maybe a Friends podcast now that we can roll with that. But probably not going to be that popular, but you never know. We'll wait and see.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah. So we're wrap that up.
Well, thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We're started something called Friendzone, where we might have some guests on that are friends of producer Liam or myself, and we'll just talk to them about whatever we want to talk about. So today we have our friend named Rastus. Hey Rastus, how are you doing?
Pretty good.
And we are just going to have a fun draft of the best actors of all time. Is that what we decided on?
Best actors, yeah.
Best actors of all time. So our criteria is going to be whatever we think is the best actors.
Yeah.
Are we doing awards or what? What are you feeling?
I'm feeling whoever we think is the best actor, that's who we're going
Okay,
with.
so you're going to have to make your
All
case
time.
then.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then this will be up on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I don't know. Producer Liam, where does this go on to?
We'll have a poll on Twitter, and I think we can do a poll on Instagram.
Okay, there we go. So check out Twitter. If you don't follow Twitter, I'm not on Twitter. So you can go on Instagram and see which one of our teams would be the best overall actor's performance. We haven't figured out who's going to go first yet here. Do we have a good system? Or do we want to rock, paper, scissors this?
3-way.
Well, we can do an odd man and then rock, paper, scissors for first pick.
Okay, yeah.
And so, Rastus, just so to fill you in, the way the draft works is you'll get first selection, second selection, third selection, and we all get one. And then it flips. So if you were third, it's a serpentine draft. So if you get the third pick, you get the first pick in the next round.
Yeah.
So how about whoever wins the odd man will then get to choose if they want first, second, or third pick, and then the other two will rock, paper, scissors it out.
Sounds good.
Okay.
This is going to be dramatic because we usually give our guests, because we honor them a lot and they're like our VIPs, we usually let them go first if they want to, but we don't have as much respect for you.
Yeah. You're so
So
friend.
we're just going to make this as fair as possible for us.
Okay.
Okay, we all good? Are we going to do
Yeah.
odd man?
Odd man? All right.
Okay, so we'll go on 3.
That's the 2 and the 1, right?
The 2 and the 1,
Okay,
yeah,
2
yeah.
and the 1, all right.
You ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we all chose 1. We could be here a while.
Now we're all going to choose 2. All right.
Now we're going to try
Ready?
again. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so Rastus ended up being our man. What do you want? What pick do you want?
I'll take the third one.
You want the third? You want the
third
double
pick.
end?
Yeah, the double end. Yeah.
Okay, Liam, are you feeling first or second?
I'm fine either way. Honestly.
Okay, I'm gonna take first overall then. Screw that.
Go ahead.
So I'll have the first pick.
Right.
Liam will have second, and Rastus has third and fourth, basically. The last of this round, the first. Is that because you think it's such a deep field? You don't think there's like a top actor to the top?
Yeah. I feel like the top, even like 5 are pretty interchangeable, maybe.
Well, I think you're wrong.
Okay.
Entirely.
Jansen only has 3.
My first overall selection, and I had this debate with somebody years ago in university. And he made the argument that this person is the best actor of all time, and I said, well, I don't know, I don't think so, but I couldn't name anybody else, so I'm going to stay with that same argument. He does comedy. He does drama. He lost 50 pounds for a movie that arguably gave him diabetes.
Who is this?
This is Tom, I don't know his middle name, but Tom Hanks.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, yeah. No.
So we're talking Castaway. He like got super skinny for that movie. We're talking like Catch Me If You Can. I'm not going to go through all the titles. That's going to take hours, but easily the first overall selection. I think I've won this draft already, but Liam, you're second. You're go.
All right, well, I'll remove Tom Hanks from my list.
Yeah, from the top of your list. Exactly. We all know he's the top.
He was the top.
Yeah, exactly. See?
Yeah, no, because he's so diverse in all
He
his
hits
work.
all genres, all people, and like
Yeah.
you can be 70 and think he's good, and like 15.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, though some of his work recently like has not been good, but I think that's just like the movies he's been getting into.
So
not
this
so
is
much
passive aggressive already. You're trying to like disparage my pick.
No, I'm just being. I would have said the same thing if I just.
No, he's not. Liam's a filthy
No,
liar.
have you seen
Okay, continue.
Have you seen? Was it The Red Circle? Exactly.
No.
That's one of his most recent movies, and it's absolutely.
He got COVID. It's COVID's fault.
Yeah, it's COVID.
This was pre-COVID.
No, it wasn't. It's not COVID. It's because of COVID. When was it released? In 2020? It's COVID.
No, I think it was like 2018, 2019.
Yeah, he was the first case of COVID.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wasn't he actually though?
He was early.
Wasn't he one of the
He and his
first?
wife
He was
actually
one of
got
the
earlier
first
people
one,
got COVID. And
Yeah.
nobody was freaking out until Tom Hanks got it. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh God, it's real.
Yeah.
And they started panicking.
Tom Hanks has it.
Anyways,
it's real.
your pick.
Oh, this is tough. I was hoping there'd be more picks chosen. I'll go with Leonardo DiCaprio. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that was
Classic.
second on my list.
That
That was
was
second on my list.
too.
Yeah.
Did amazing in Titanic, and then
25 years ago.
also one of my favorite scenes of all time is with him in Django when he's getting mad at the table and he smashes that glass.
Yeah.
He actually smashed the glass and got the glass shattered in his hand and continued to act through it despite bleeding all over his hand. And he even touched his hand against one of the actress's faces, which is kind of gross, but still amazing acting.
I think he was second on my list, and I think he's a solid pick.
Yeah.
Okay, Rastus, what about you? You got back-to-back picks now.
Back-to-back picks,
You
okay.
chose this. You won it all. You get
Yes.
double picks.
Are you going to screw it up?
Maybe.
All likelihood is yes.
Okay.
But
And for the third pick, I got Samuel L. Jackson.
what?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
high?
Really?
That high. That high.
Oh my!
He is.
He's a good actor.
He is a good actor.
He wouldn't
He's
have
so
been my
diverse.
first pick.
Yeah,
but he's still
he's
a very
good,
good actor.
but we're doing 9 people are going to be drafted. He was like my 8th or 9th if I got
Actually,
desperate and I panicked.
I would.
No, I wouldn't have had that with.
Maybe
Snakes
lowest
on a plane
I go
1.
is 6.
Snakes on a plane 2. Snakes on a plane 3. I don't even know if he's in all of them, but that is self-explanatory enough.
No, I'm more with Rastus here.
Yeah.
I think it's a better pick than what you're giving it.
No, 100%. I don't know how you think it's like down.
Maybe I'm wrong. Like the only thing that he's been good in the last
You've probably only seen. Snakes
What
on
about
a Plane.
Star
no, I never
Wars?
even watched it. He's in Star Wars.
Yeah, the prequel.
Yeah,
Oh
pretty
god!
cool.
I was gonna say the only thing good in the last 10 years is he was like Nick Fury in Shield.
Yeah,
on
but he
adventure
was in
stuff.
Glass and what's the other one?
Glass and.
What's the other one called?
But this is helping my point that you guys don't even know the name of the movies, and you're like everything.
But remember
else.
Glass? Glass. It's him and then the guy from Split.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I remember that one.
Yeah.
That one was pretty good.
That's a really good
That
one.
was a really
like
good
he
one.
acts well in that. I think.
Okay. So Rastus, what's your first pick of the second round?
Okay. All right. So first pick of the second round. This
This is gonna be rough.
I could brutally ruin this, but
Uh-oh.
I don't think he's on the top 9 for sure.
Okay, well
Oh,
go
But
make your case.
Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro.
Oh no, I
Okay,
definitely
okay,
think
he was on
okay.
my list.
Okay,
He was on
okay.
my
that's
list.
a better pick than Sam Jackson.
Have you seen what's the recent movie with Robert De Niro in it?
Well, he's
The
like
long movie, the 3-hour movie.
he's like 75 now or 80. He's up
he
there.
is up there.
But
yeah.
he's phenomenal, and he's
yeah.
very similar to Tom Hanks, and I would say Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
But He's been in comedies. He's been in dramas.
yeah.
He's been in everything.
I don't know, like when I was like a little bit like younger and I like would watch Robert De Niro, he's like more in some serious movies type of thing that I would watch. And then like when I went and watched, I don't know if you guys seen Dirty Grandpa. Yeah. So I saw that and I was shocked at like how like well he like nailed that role for like him being like so different than what he like usually does. I feel like.
Oh yeah, no, he's very good. That was actually my next pick on my list.
Robert
If you
De Niro.
didn't take him,
Yeah.
and Liam didn't take him, I was gonna rock him.
Robert De Niro is a good
I gotta look up what that movie is now.
So
the 3-hour one.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar with it.
it's long, but it's really good. It's really well done.
I don't know.
The Irishman.
The Irishman. No, I have not seen it.
that.
It's very good.
Yeah?
If you ever have 3 hours to spend,
Well,
it's really good.
I haven't watched speaking of long movies, I haven't watched the long remake of what is it? It's not the Suicide Squad. It's the other
The
one.
Justice League.
The Justice League.
The Snyder's cut.
Snyder's cut. Yeah, that's a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, I'm not watching
a long one.
Apparently, it's really good. Like, it's a lot better than the actual movie.
See, that's what
Actually,
everyone
okay.
said, and all the reviews have said that. And I want to watch it, but I'm like 4 hours. That's like
The actual movie was
that's
terrible.
tough.
I never watched it.
It was disappointing.
It was very
I don't watch
disappointing.
DC
Very
stuff
disappointing.
because it's so poorly done.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was like the only DC movie I saw in theaters, and I was very disappointed when I watched it.
DC, in my opinion, has more potential than Marvel because it's able to be more dark as a universe because it just is more dark.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it is when they make their movies, they just screw it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
bad production.
yeah. I don't know. I like them both. I think they're good.
Yeah.
Anyways, Liam, what's your pick for your next round?
Oh, I have to think about this one.
Oh Lord.
I'm gonna go with Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
See, he was kind of in my area of like the top 10, except. Well, okay, you make your case. I'll talk about it. You make your case. Go.
Well, I just think like he's really funny, really like able to adapt as with his characters, and I think he's really good at like getting into character. Like in Good Will Hunting, like I found him amazing. Just like going on and going back and forth with Matt Damon, I just found they like really connected in that movie, and like great comedian. Like he did stand up and such, and I don't know, I just loved his work. I thought he's really well done.
I can somewhat agree with that. I don't think he was in my top 9. He wasn't in my top 9, but he's up there.
I might have put him a little too high, but
He's
I feel like just because
not-
people know
he's
him.
definitely not a number 5 pick. I don't think.
Yeah,
I want to say he's a
I
number
would
5
definitely
pick.
do that.
but
I would say like he's in the at best
10.
11 to 15 range for
Yeah.
me, but even 15 to 20. And it's more that he was a good comedic actor, but I wouldn't say outstanding. Like he's good,
Right.
But he was not in my top 3 if I had to choose comedians.
Yeah.
And that's all he did. He didn't really do lots of drama stuff and everything else. That was good. That was well done. Though he did do a movie in the Yukon.
He did.
Yeah, he did one that was like, it was a really weird movie. They filmed it, and it was filming in Alaska too. I forget the name of it. It came out about 5 or 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Okay.
So, okay, it's time for me to take my crown with my next 2 selections because I get the
You get the double.
You get the double.
second
Yeah.
of the last one of the second round and the first of the third round. So I do think the Robert De Niro pick was good for you, and I was thinking about Robin Williams, and I also was thinking about somebody like Jim Carrey, where Jim Carrey has had some good comedy and some other stuff, but he's not in the top 9 pick. He's the same thing. I think he's awesome. Ace Ventura is one of my favorite movies. Not a top 10 selection, a top 9 selection. Yeah. So I'm going to go with one of, if not the most recognizable voices and names in. Oh, I think you know where I'm going with this?
I think I know who you're going for.
He was in some awesome movies. He's had lots of different roles. He's funny. And he's got that recognizable voice that when he starts talking, everyone knows who he is. Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
Oh, that was, yeah.
He was up there for me too.
Yeah, so I'm taking Denzel.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, you probably did because you were so
he
focused
was really
on.
good. He was on my list, but
Like you took Sam Jackson
yes,
and Robin Williams over Denzel Washington
100%.
to me is bonkers. It's crazy. I think you guys. I think you're nuts.
I think Robin Williams has like a great story of like battling mental illness like his whole life.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
But-
and I think that helps my case. I'm pulling all the cards out here.
Okay,
We're
okay.
getting desperate.
If you want to see what producer Liam looks like desperate or listen to him desperate, here we go. My next pick, and this here, he's kind of been gone for a little bit. I haven't seen, and he really struggled the last little bit. He tried to get his kids, especially his son, to be in movies, and that kind of derailed his career a little bit. because they made this stupid movie about, I don't remember what it was, but he came up and produced like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
I can't remember the line from Independence Day. Have you guys seen the movie Independence Day back from the late 90s?
I've never seen it.
And he's like, "Welcome to Earth, mother effers," I think is what he says. And he punches an alien. And it's like the best line for like 2 years. I'm going with Will Smith.
Will Smith. Yeah.
Will Smith.
I think he's overrated as an actor.
What?
I think he hasn't been good since like his Fresh Prince days.
Yeah, he's put out some
Since
really
the
bad
90s?
movies. He's put out some really bad movies.
Yeah, he's had so many bad movies.
Yeah.
Really?
His probably latest good movie was probably I Am Legend.
I didn't even like that movie, I'll be honest.
But of like all his stuff, like that's like of the newest stuff, that's probably the best
Probably
of.
the best. And I did not really like I Am Legend. Like I was just like was not the biggest fan of it.
Okay. Wow. You guys
And,
are
like,
way overrated.
Him in Karate Kid.
What was he in recently? That's good.
Okay. Well, I will look it up here and I will check and see what.
Make your argument.
Okay. I'm going to make my argument here.
I say he's like top like
Okay.
20.
So
Yeah.
honestly.
it wasn't a super good movie. But Bad Boys for Life.
That's not a good way to
not a good
start.
sign.
No. But like Bad Boys 1 and 2 was legit good. Bad Boys 1? Yeah. Bad Boys. Yeah, it's good. Bad Boys 3, Bad Boys for Life, not that good, but it was still, it was okay. He's had some okay ones. Gemini Man wasn't terrible. I'd give it like a 7 out of 10. Have you guys seen Gemini Man? Where he's like,
I can picture it.
they basically cloned him and stuff like that, and he's like this assassin person.
Okay, I don't think I actually watched
Anyways,
it.
it's good.
I remember seeing it.
There is, if you like cartoons, there's Spies in Disguise, and then he was in the Aladdin movie, which I have like the live action Aladdin movie, which I
Oh,
haven't
and
seen.
we got
terrible.
It wasn't good.
Jens won't get it, but the memes, the Will Smith memes, that boosts him to top 15.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
but like Fresh Prince, I think ended in like 94, 95, 96, somewhere in there in the 90s.
Mhm.
We have him in. Apparently, he was in Anchorman 2, which is I didn't know that.
I don't
He
remember
was?
him from that.
Men in Black series. Men in
Okay.
Black was phenomenal.
Who was the other actor in Men in Black though? The older guy.
What's his name?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty good too, but he's
was
old
pretty
now
good,
and stuff like
yeah.
that. But there's other ones like I Am Legend. I Am Legend was 2007. There's been lots of good movies. Hitch, Hancock,
Hitch was a
Shark's
really
Tale,
good one.
Hancock was
I,
horrible.
Robot.
Hancock was
horrible.
atrocious.
Did you like that movie?
That was atrocious.
Yeah, it was like a 6.5. 6.
That's a 6.
I like
Maybe.
Hitch.
You have
Hitch
low
was a
standards.
good one.
Okay, I, Robot was good.
Yeah, I Am Robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the Bad Boys, Legend of Bagger Vance, Wild West. That did not get good reviews, but it was actually entertaining. Enemy of the State, Independence Day. Oh God, his category is good. Like he's like 55 now. He's taking his time. He's kind of like, and the problem is he tried to make those movies with his kids, and that derailed
Yeah.
his
What
career.
was that movie where the one where he was with his kid? Like the first, the big one.
Oh,
I don't even know the name.
Pursuit
Like
of Happiness.
no,
Where-
Pursuit
No,
of
no,
Happiness
no.
was actually
Okay, that one was
Pursuit of
good.
Happiness was
that wasn't
actually
bad.
What one were you talking? Like
the
his
one
kid
where they,
After Earth.
yes.
Oh, okay.
That was horrible.
I think I watched
hated that
10
movie.
minutes.
Absolutely hated that movie.
And then I found more enjoyment staring at the ceiling, hoping that the paint would dry, even though it's not wet, than watching that movie.
Yeah, no, that was a horrible movie.
Yeah, that was bad. Anyways,
And I
that's
got
my team. So
I
I've
got a
got
bad taste from.
Tom Hanks, Denzel, and Will Smith. So I'd love to see.
See, I think you just threw it away with that Will Smith pick.
Okay, what are you gonna take
I
instead?
think,
I had some
I
other
think it was
people.
a bad decision. Now I have to think though, because I have to.
Like I have an honorable.
back
Yeah, I have an
this up
honorable
now.
mention list, but I want to see what you come up with. You want to attack my Will Smith pick?
Well, I have different ways I can go here, but I think I'm gonna go with my favorite person of all time.
Oh no.
And anyone who
I think that's threatening my
I
pick.
don't
this
think
is
it'll
gonna
be
be
your
bad. This
pick.
is gonna be bad.
You think so?
It's not gonna be bad, but it's not gonna be great.
It's gonna be somebody terrible. Yeah.
All right, Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, that's actually a good pick.
I mean,
Him.
I
he's
think
not.
I think he's underrated. No, I think
he's underrated, but he's not a top 20.
I think
I'm biased because he's hilarious. Go ahead.
Recently, he's in a lot of like action movies, but I think he has more potential like outside of the action.
I
Like
think he could expand.
I think he could expand a
I
little
don't
bit
want
more.
him to though.
No,
You don't want
he's
to?
great.
He
He's
has
great
comedic
in
timing.
action.
He has
comedy.
really great comedic timing.
He is phenomenal. I think if he just devoted himself and the producers wanted him in those roles, and I'm not sure if he wanted to pigeonhole himself that much either, but he could be one of the best comedic actors of all time.
I just have a fear of him staying in action movies because like he got into one recently. Is it called Free Guy or something? I don't know. It's
Yeah, it hasn't come out yet, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure that will be a horrible movie. Like I don't think.
Yeah, the premise
be
is
good
like there was another one he did for
him.
Netflix called Underground 6.
Yeah, I haven't watched that one.
it was like the premise was like looked okay and stuff like that. And I thought it was going to be terrible, but it actually wasn't bad.
Okay.
I'd give it like a 7.
Okay, because I just think he's really getting Deadpool, and then if you've watched Hitman's Bodyguard, him and Samuel Jackson just
that one's a good
mix
one.
so well. in
Yeah,
that
but he's
movie.
also got. That's actually a good pick. I will give you a heads up for that pick.
I think he's got like some more earlier work as well. What was the one? The Bride. What was that?
Oh, The Proposal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so he's
That
good
was
with
really
rom-coms
good.
and stuff like that. A
Yeah.
lot of the comedies he's
Proposal was
really good.
good.
Yeah.
That's one of the
'Cause
best
he has
rom-coms.
really good
Yeah.
comedic time. That's one of the only rom-coms I'll actually watch.
Yeah.
So who's all in your team? You're Leo
Leo,
DiCaprio.
yeah,
good.
Robin Williams, and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, so you're not bad. That's not a bad second place draft.
Yeah. All right, we're going for the final pick.
And
here?
what's your
All right,
final
what's
pick?
your final
Okay,
pick?
I think there's only really one way to go with this. And
Oh God. So to recap,
That's not a
no,
good start.
I mean,
Rastus took Sam Jackson
Yes.
3rd overall, which is nuts. But
Oh,
he
yes.
had a really good follow-up pick with Robert Downey Jr.
no, Robert
Sorry.
De Niro.
Robert De Niro.
Not
Robert Downey. He's got a few good movies. but
Yeah, he's not good.
He's
Robert De Niro.
purely in action.
Oh, yes.
And so your third pick here?
Brad Pitt.
Okay, yeah. He was
Okay.
kind of as like a buffer zone for me.
yeah.
But-
He's had a lot of good movies.
He's had a lot of good movies. I don't know what it is. I just don't like him that much as an actor.
No, actually.
No.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's okay.
I think he's a good actor, but he's just not for me. I don't know.
Can I name some people I had ahead of him?
Yeah.
All right. So I have Al Pacino ahead of him.
I thought you were gonna pick that because didn't you mention that when we were?
haven't seen much movies.
Yeah, I don't know what
so
he's
I can't justify like trying to pick him.
No, he's older too. He's like
Yeah.
in the same thing as like Robert De Niro. I just think
Yeah.
Robert De Niro is better. And I'm surprised you guys didn't go there, but he has got arguably the best voice in Hollywood. He narrates documentaries now all the time. He's in his 70s. You know who I'm talking about?
I think so.
Morgan
Yeah,
Freeman?
Morgan Freeman.
I don't know, like, but
I've
Morgan
always
Freeman
known
as
that-
an actor.
I've always known
I
him
know.
as a
So
narrator.
as an actor, he's not as
Yeah.
like he doesn't have as many big hits and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But his voice is just
like
so good.
his voice is so good, but I don't feel like as an actor he does well at like adapting to roles. Like I don't find him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's totally true.
I don't know. Like yeah, he has a great voice though.
Great
like
voice,
yeah.
And like I've only really known him from like a narrative role where
Yeah.
like I don't see him acting in it the movies. So
And then there was another pick that I would not put in the top 10, but lots of people think that he's decent in top 15 is like Tom Cruise, but I think Tom Cruise is way overrated.
I was gonna say Tom
so
Cruise
overrated.
only because he does all his own stunts.
Yeah, who cares? Like, be a stuntman then. Don't be an actor if you can't act.
Yeah, but I think he's a decent actor.
yeah.
I wouldn't say he's like an amazing actor. I think he's an interesting guy. He wouldn't have been one of my picks. I had him on my list, but I wasn't gonna pick him. I just had him.
Like, he's got Top
I think he's
Gun.
a cool. Yeah,
He's got Risky Business or whatever those other movies were in the 90s. I don't know.
yeah. He's got all the
And then he's
Mission
got like
Impossible.
1,700 Mission Impossible
Yeah.
movies.
yeah,
And that's it. Like, I don't know. I think he's so overrated.
I think so.
So
too.
overrated.
I would not.
He does all his own stunts.
So many people I'd put ahead of him.
Yeah, no.
That's
There's a reason I didn't choose him on my.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when somebody's like they've been an actor for 30 years. Yeah, but they've been terrible at
Doesn't mean
acting
they're
for
good.
30 years. Doesn't mean anything.
You know who I think is going to become a really good actor though, or has potential to become, is Adam Driver.
Adam Driver, yeah. He
If
has
you've
he
seen
has potential.
The
He
Marriage
has
Story,
potential.
I haven't.
his
but
acting in The Marriage Story is really well done.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably, in my opinion, it's probably the best of all his movies, and I think he can grow
Yeah.
from there.
Well, and so if just going back on since you're talking about honorable mentions and other people, Jamie Foxx was on. I was thinking about
Oh,
him.
yeah.
He like, but again, I don't think top 10 potential.
Yeah,
And other people that they haven't done much in the last few years, but it's one of those areas that Vince Vaughn had a good run. Will Ferrell.
Vaughn.
I'm going more comedy now.
I didn't
Owen
like Will
Wilson.
Ferrell. I never
you don't
liked
like
Will
Will
Ferrell.
Ferrell.
I like
never
Will
liked
Ferrell.
him. I don't know what it is. I
Step
never
Brothers.
liked.
Step Brothers.
Step Brothers hilarious.
Old
Like,
school.
Never liked
old
Will
school,
Ferrell.
Old school, so good.
I'm sorry.
Like
amazing,
arguably the best Christmas movie of all time with Elf.
yeah,
No, I never
Elf.
liked Elf.
What?
You didn't
I
like
did
Elf?
not like Elf.
Do you hate puppies and little kids?
No, I think Elf is very overrated.
Wow.
Okay.
I've seen that movie every single Christmas,
And I
still
hate
don't
when it's
think
on every
overrated.
single Christmas. I don't
Wow.
like that. Yeah, I think that got like a bad
Will
taste for me
Ferrell,
for Will Ferrell, and
I've never heard anybody not like Elf. Like I
No,
get
I
sick
don't.
of Elf because I've seen it so many
Yeah.
times.
no, I don't
but-
like Elf.
One movie
Wow.
that like I know a lot of people it gets a lot of hate is like Get Hard with Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell in it.
Yeah, that was kind of weak.
Yeah,
It was
I heard
kinda-
about
kinda
it.
But then,
weak.
like,
I don't think I've actually watched it.
It is
I've seen many trailers.
yeah. I mean,
It's not as good. It wasn't. It
No.
wasn't super strong. But then
Yeah.
Kevin Hart. Speaking of another one, Kevin Hart's like
Kevin Hart.
done really well in the last
Yeah.
few years with some. He's had some duds though too.
He has. He really
But still,
has.
one of my favorite is The Wedding Ringer.
The Wedding Ringer is a really good one.
Yeah, it's so
that's
good. But then he has had like Get Hard and like Night School
Yeah.
was like
Night
yeah,
School was
Night
not
School.
good. Night School was
pretty
not
bad.
good.
Like a good 4.5 to 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a
not
good
strong.
run. Him and The Rock are like, put out a few good movies.
But I would say that
for
The
a
Rock
tiny bit.
carries it, and Kevin Hart's like the stooge. Like it's like Jumanji and then Central Intelligence stuff like that. Like The Rock is
liked
the guy,
Central
and Kevin Hart just like
Intelligence,
plays off him.
For some reason, I don't know what it was. I wasn't the biggest fan of Jumanji.
The first one?
No, the original Jumanji with Robin Williams, I was.
Oh yeah, that was not
But
good. But it
when
was
we're
not
talking
comedy
about the
as much.
remakes, I'm not the biggest fan of them. Like,
Really?
I don't know.
I haven't watched them actually.
Oh god, I think the first remake, and even the second one wasn't as
I've
good.
never seen the second.
But the first one, the remake was so good.
See, I'm scared of remakes.
Jack Black was
Jack
hilarious.
Black was good.
Because he
for sure.
spoilers coming up right here. So if you haven't seen the movie, don't listen.
Oh,
Jack Black is a woman. Like he's portraying that
Oh,
he's a
right.
17-year-old girl.
Yeah.
So he's acting like, oh my god, my nails. Oh my goodness, and just so over the top. It's actually quite a good performance by Jack Black.
He did really good in that movie for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, that's our draft here of our best actors. Please go on and vote, and please punish Rastus for taking Sam Jackson in the first round.
Whoa.
You can,
I'm sure there's.
yeah, I
I'm
would
sure
have
there's.
put him first round.
I'm sure there's plenty
second
of
round
people
pick
out there that agree.
could have
with
been
me.
a second round pick, but not a
See,
first
I
round
had
pick.
him. I had him in like the 7-8 range.
Yeah.
So like depending how stuff goes, like maybe late second, early third, but third overall. Whew. That's okay. That's okay. We'll wait and see. Maybe I'm totally wrong, and maybe everyone's
Wait,
gonna
Jensen,
agree
who
with
was
you.
your third pick again?
Who was my third? Again? Will Smith.
Last pick.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Will Smith.
So I got Denzel, Will Smith, and
No,
Tom Hanks.
Will Smith just ruins it.
Will
You
Smith
have a good
does.
lineup
Tom
up
Hanks
until
is
then.
amazing, yeah.
What?
Tom Hanks
Will
and
Smith is a
Denzel,
no.
both really
No.
good, but
Oh.
Will Smith just ruins your lineup.
I
I think
guess
I got this one.
we'll have to wait and see. I really don't. I don't have much faith in all of your drafting, actually.
Do we need to bring back the two Isaiah Thomases and Steve Kerr?
Please no. Please no. But it's good. You always get the bronze medal in these drafts, which is it's good because you're still on the podium.
I'm still on the podium.
You're still on the podium,
I- no,
you know?
You're wrong here. I think Rastus will agree that your lineup.
we'll have to wait and
Will
see.
Smith just ruins your
Yeah, I
lineup.
think like I don't know. Like if you picked someone a bit better than Will Smith, if you put Brad Pitt over Will Smith there, like in that
Oh,
spot,
no, I would take Will Smith over Brad Pitt.
actually,
Really? No, I choose Brad
Brad
Pitt
Pitt.
over Will Smith.
Okay. Well,
this is
maybe I'm
coming
wrong.
from a guy that isn't too fond of Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
Who
Will
knows?
Smith is.
I think he's just
overrated.
mad because I have better teams than him. We'll wait and see.
I am not jealous of Will Smith. You have the guy.
Anyways, we'll be back next week with another pod, and we have another really good guest lined up, so you're going to want to tune into that one.